Welcome to another episode of the Discuss segment of the Market Opening Gong, where we provide incisive information and engage in robust discussions on investment for millennials. Today, we will be looking at investment and participation in the capital market for millennials. Joining me to discuss on this topic is the ex-CEO RMB Nigeria Stockbrokers, a subsidiary of First Rand Group, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers of Nigeria. She is a leading wealth and investment expert and has worked with leading financial service firms and is skilled in investment banking, financial modeling, equity trading, capital markets, and trading systems. And we have Ms. Abiola Adekoya. Thank you so much for coming on the program today to share some of your investment knowledge with us.
Thank you for having me on, Nifemi, and thanks to the ProShare team as well.
So you have gone from starting a career in the banking sector to then transitioning into the Nigerian financial market, specifically to stockbroking, through consistency and hard work to acquire in-depth knowledge. As we start, I would like you to speak on what informed the transition and also touch on what made you decide to study the financial market ecosystem.
So what informed the transition was I had done banking for a couple of years and I enjoyed it, but I felt like I wanted to be more impactful, especially when it came to giving advice to investors on where to invest their money and what to buy and what to sell, essentially. And so that led me to transit from banking into stockbroking, and it's been quite a very good experience for me, I would say. I really have enjoyed, being a member of the investment banking sector.
Yeah. So how easy and accessible is the Nigerian capital market to the millennials? Just share your thoughts on that.
I would say that it is accessible. Is it easy? I'm not quite sure. I feel like we can do a lot more, but definitely, the outlets are there. There are opportunities there for millennials to get into the market. So we have, you can get into the market via the stock market. You have the bonds now with the FGN savings bonds. That's also available to millennials as well. Now, can we make some of the more exotic capital market assets more readily accessible to millennials? We can definitely do that. It's what I tend to use the term democratization of certain assets. I think we can democratize them and make it more accessible and easy for millennials.
All right. So the opportunity is there, but we just need to make it more accessible for the millennials.
Yes. Yes, we do. We definitely need to.
Yeah. Do you think that the way the capital market is structured is attractive to the millennials and even the new Generation Z?
Well, I wouldn't say that it is not unattractive. I think it is definitely attractive because there are opportunities there. I do think that the performance of the market in the last 2 to 3 years has not made it attractive to millennials and Gen Z. And also adding to that is that there are now quite a number of other investment opportunities that are available to millennials and Gen Zs that make the normal conventional options less attractive. So for example, we have a lot of all these alternative assets such as the agri funds that we hear a lot about, even though one should proceed with caution. We also have FX trading, which is also popular as well. And then also access to global markets, international markets has also become very popular. So they have sort of taken their focus away from our local market. But definitely, if you had invested in the Nigerian stock market at the peak of the dip, at the lowest point, in March, you would have been up now. Your portfolio would probably be up by about another 10% as of today. So yes, there are opportunities, but I think that the performance has definitely made the interest less attractive to millennials and Gen Z.
Okay, so as you have said, caution is important. I mean, a lot of these young individuals really want to invest, but maybe because of their risk appetite and the fact that they really like to live in the moment is really one of these things that, and the language from the capital market as well needs to be in a simple form.
I agree with you. Nifemi, I take that on board, and you'll be glad to know that in the last couple of conversations I've had with members of, the capital markets team, either by direct interaction or indirect, I continue to emphasize this. We need to do a lot more. We're not doing enough. I do accept that we have sort of left the business of educating the millennials and the Gen Zs to other non-practitioners. And I think while we have done a lot to educate the wholesale market, which is institutional investors, we've done quite well in that space. We need to bring some of that knowledge that we have offered them. We need to bring it to the more, would I say, millennials and the Gen Zs. We need to make it more, more tailored to suit them, particularly given the fact that they tend to absorb information very differently. So while we tend to use a lot of newsletters and very technical language, they prefer simpler language, and their meeting points are not necessarily where we meet. So they would rather be on Instagram. They would rather be, social media is a huge platform for them. We need to come there and engage with them more often. And in my conversations with some of the practitioners in my industry, I have said that to them, that we need to take our messaging out of the office back into the streets where they really belong, especially to this sector of investors that I think we can definitely, add value to.
Yeah. In terms of boosting participation of millennials in the capital market, as there seems to be a low percentage, from previous guests that we've had come on the show, they have said that it could be due to the language. And honestly, I agree with what you just said, that, you were speaking to some of your practitioners in the industry, and, work needs to be done to make the language in a way that will be easy for them to really assimilate it. And I remember at the Zimvest webinar, you said that the capital market operators really need to make the product innovative, exciting, so that these young individuals really, it will be something that they can actually relate to and say they want to actually put their money and use it to actively invest.
Absolutely. Valid, but I think what I was going to talk next on was really product innovation. I think that's an area where we have done well in certain areas, but we haven't communicated it appropriately. The NSC, for example, has a couple of products that they're already initiating, and they've already sort of launched and implemented. And so one of them is the securities lending products. We haven't brought that, from wholesale, from institutional investors stage to the retail investor. And we need to be able to do that. Now, another product that we don't really talk enough about is, for example, the gold ETF, which, if you can imagine, when you look at the last couple of months, gold was really one of the best performing asset classes, particularly during this recent market downturn. But we didn't market it enough to investors. So a lot of the investors weren't able to take advantage of it. So we need to do a lot more. And there are other products I think we can definitely introduce that would make millennials more excited, because they do take this risk. As you're aware, a lot of millennials invest in non-popular asset classes. So property is one that they do, particularly land. They also do FX trading. They do all these sort of, slightly high risk investments, but we're not doing enough to bring them on board onto our own platform. And we need to change that. And there's things that I know the regulators are working on. I know the NSC and some other people are trying to definitely work on to make sure that they carry everyone along, especially in this season.
Yeah. Because the NSC and the other regulators, they're actually really trying in terms of really making the, information, using a lot of the people that these young individuals can relate to, as well as also having hackathons, competitions that will just, try and keep them interested. What should be the role of the dealing members in wooing more millennials into the market space?
One of the things I've said to all my peers, and I've spoken to a couple of them, and I've said, look, we need to educate people a lot more about what we're doing. We can't stay in our offices and assume that they will have an idea. So we need to leave the office and go to where their platforms are and engage with them. So the first thing is education about what we're doing. The second thing, we need to promote access to the products that we have. So right now, the access that we're offering them, it always feels like they have to come to us. So we need to make sure that the access allows us to be in their face and in their, constantly visible to them. We need to be more visible to them as well. We also need to leverage technology very strongly. I think we're doing a lot with technology, but we're not letting technology to drive our business as much as it can. And I think technology is a good way to penetrate the millennials and the Gen Zs. It's a very strong tool that, if we use properly, can give us like almost 2 to 3 years growth within a very short period of time.
Yeah. So, if, there's a millennial that really wants to take up an investment decision, and the individual really has no idea as regards how to go about it. What would you say are some key things that such person needs to do?
I think the first thing I'm going to ask any millennial is really, what is your goal? Okay, and so a lot of people invest because everybody's investing is popular. I mean, that's the first step, to be interested. But when you get over the initial euphoria of being interested, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is my goal for investing? Okay, and the goal can be short, medium, or long term. Why is that important? When you have a goal, it informs the next question, which is, what sort of asset classes would I like to invest in?
Right.
Then you now do your due diligence and you find which asset classes that there are and which ones you want to put your money into. And there are a couple of them, as you're aware. There's property, there's stocks, there's fixed income, which includes the FGN savings bonds, which I mentioned earlier. There's treasury bills, and the other sort of products that you can get yourself, that you can be a part of. Now, once you've answered that question, I think the third question is really then to go down to, what level of risk am I willing to take? Now, people, when we talk about risk, millennials kind of go funny and like, what is risk? What is risk? I simply term risk as, how much are you willing to lose? So my favorite question to mention to help people guide people on risk is really, if you had 10 million naira, how much would you be prepared to lose with 10 million naira? So if that money is 500,000 naira, then you know that you're a low risk person. If you're willing to lose 5 million naira, then you're a high risk person. So once you define your risk, the next point is really then, based on the options that you've listed out, which vendors or which financial services providers will meet your product criteria. And you choose one. I mean, they're all registered, they're all accredited, so you're in good hands, whichever one you choose. Choose one, and then the next thing is to act. You must invest. It's a 5-step process. So you must invest. So the final step is the most important step. Don't get worried about the first 4. Focus on the final, which is action and investing.
Let's talk a little about building portfolio for millennials. What would you say for a millennial that is really trying to build their portfolio, even at a time like this now with the whole pandemic outbreak of COVID-19?
I would tell, first of all, I'll tell the millennial, congratulations. You're at the best time ever in life to start a portfolio. The best time to start a portfolio is when the market is at the weakest. And right now the market is at the weakest, because only winners buy when it's weak, losers buy when it's high. So you buy now, you get in properly. Now, the first thing I would say is to consider is, because you're a millennial, you can take a lot more risk. So I would advise you take the risk now. So do focus more on things like land. If you can afford it, you can look for land that you can pay in cyclical, termed amounts. So focus on things like land. Focus on things like stocks right now. Educate yourself on the stock market. Focus on I would give an advice generally on that. I would say focus on blue chip companies. I think they offer good returns always in the long run. The third thing I would say you should also put your money in is some cash. And that can be roughly about 30% of your portfolio. Then you should also look at more alternative investments. There's a lot of angel investing going on. There are angel investment funds out there. I think you can get involved in that. Some of the agri products that are out there are not bad at all. There's some that are done by credible partners. You can look for them and make sure that you pick the right one. And I think with a good basket of that, you're well positioned for the long run. Another area that you should focus on as a millennial, even though they will say, well, I don't have enough money, start trying to put money in alternative currency. I think it's something I strongly advocate. And there are quite a few options out there that are Eurobond funds that belong to various asset managers. I think it's an area that millennials will definitely benefit from. I wish I had started saving dollars from when I started working 22 years ago. By now, I probably would just be moving to you guys on some beach or an island somewhere. But yes, absolutely. I think those are the options you can explore.
And that brings us to the end of this discourse. Thank you so much, Ms. Abiola Adekoya, for being with us on the program. It was great having you discuss and give your perspective on investments.
Thank you very much, Nifemi, for having me on, and thank you so much to ProShare. I worked with ProShare when I started my stockbroking career when I was in CSO. So I'm very pleased to see how the business has grown. So well done to ProShare, and thank you, Nifemi, for being a fantastic interviewer. Thank you.
That's nice to hear. All right.
All right. Take care.
And that brings us to the end of this discourse. Be sure to connect with us on our social media platforms displaying on your screen, and also visit our website www.proshareng.com to get more updates from our news stories and videos. Until next time, thank you for watching, and bye for now.